Good morning, General, members of the JTF staff, and fellow command team partners. I'm Command Sergeant Major Rusnak, and today I'm going to be providing the senior enlisted perspective on how we put Joint All-Domain Operations, better known as JADO, into action at the division level as we prepare to support this joint task force in the Western Hemisphere. Now, my brief today isn't just about outlining the doctrine. We all can do that. Or going by the book. It's about telling you how we turn high-level joint concepts into actual tactical lethality at the lowest level through disciplined initiative and execution, trained muscle memory at the lowest individual service member level in the formations. Now, as senior leaders, it's our responsibility to close the gap between the strategic intent and what's actually possible on the ground. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to address what we must prioritize in the division level JADO planning and how we reduce our vulnerabilities in the contested environments we operate in. And I'm also going to talk about how we're going to implement these changes through division planning through our SOPs so that our formations can fight and win and survive. The bottom line up front is that in division level JADO planning, we have to prioritize an integrated multi-domain planning that's number one, resilient, number two, adaptable, and number three, focus on generating compounding effects that can overwhelm our adversaries. We can't treat space and cyber and electromagnetic spectrums and information add-ons as some isolated function that we don't have to deal with these days, that are managed only by their specialized sections inside a climate-controlled TOC somewhere. To put it simply, if JADO remains confined to their individual planning cells, our concepts are going to collapse at the first point of contact. Achieving true JADO capabilities, it's going to require two core operational pillars. First of all, we've got to push the integration down to the lowest level of execution. We have to exercise mission command, ensuring our junior officers and NCOs understand how to operate across all domains, period. Secondly, we have to build a resilient force by training our formations to operate confidently and effectively when the primary systems are denied or degraded, which is often the case in combat. Success depends on us moving beyond simple deconfliction and into real-time synchronized training throughout all of these domains. This brief is going to outline how we're going to achieve that through training, updated SOPs, and how we're going to turn JADO into a daily habit, not just a PowerPoint concept. To build an effective JADO training framework, we need a shared understanding of what JADO actually is. Army doctrine makes it clear that JADO is not just about a modernized term for combined arms. Traditionally, joint operations depend heavily on deconfliction, where the Air Force manages the air, the Navy controls the water, and the Army simply operates on the land, with each force simply trying not to get in each other's way. JADO fundamentally changes that approach. It requires simultaneous integration of the capabilities of all of these domains, land, air, space, cyber, electromagnetic, all working harmoniously to create a combat power that's overwhelming when necessary. We must teach our NCOs and junior NCOs and leaders that space, cyber, and EMS are not just passive enablers or background systems. They're contested spaces, and losing access to these spaces in the electromagnetic spectrum means losing the ability of command and control forces on the ground. Failing to secure our cyber networks turns our tactical data links into avenues for enemy deception. Our task is to operationalize these domains so that actions in space, cyber, or EMS directly shape the opportunities for ground maneuver units, creating windows of advantage that our formations can exploit immediately. A key tenet that we must emphasize in our planning is the generation of cumulative effects. What I mean by that is, in peer and near-peer conflict, we have to move away from the idea that victory is going to come from one large kinetic strike or one large decisive kinetic battle. We're kind of seeing that right now in Iran. JADO planning instead builds a continuous cascading series of effects and dilemmas across multiple domains, whether it be air or cyber, that steadily erodes the enemy's will and ability to fight. It's this all-encompassing battlefield. By synchronizing the non-lethal and the cyber and the space and the EMS capabilities with our kinetic actions, at that point, we force enemies and commanders to respond overlapping crises on multiple fields. For example, if we take out their satellite communications through space-based electronic warfare, while we at the same time are executing a localized cyber operation that blinds their air defense radar, we have a window at that point where we have air superiority before they can regain their footing. We exploit that window through rapid ground maneuver, rapid air maneuver, and we are winning. Division level JADO planning, it ensures each tactical action sets the conditions for the next, creating that cumulative compounding effect that overloads the adversary's command and control, and it compromises their decision cycle. This is how we can seize and maintain the operational initiative and survive, fight. Now, putting JADO into operation at the division level, it's going to require disciplined planning framework that accounts for risk and the ability for us all to work together. First of all, the planning must be intelligence driven. The G2, it's their responsibility to map out the enemy's capabilities, vulnerabilities across every domain, not just the physical domain. Secondly, we must provide you, sir, with layered options. This means understanding how our capabilities relate to the authorities that govern them. While the Joint Task Force remains the authority for the offensive cyber operations, the division has to be proficient for requesting, synchronizing, and exploiting those JTF effects. We must know which authorities reside organically in the division, such as the electronic attacks, which require joint approval. Third, and most importantly, risk mitigation must be deliberate. Every action in one domain creates an exposure in the other. For example, if we put a signal out for electromagnetic energy to jam Army sensors, we might simultaneously increase the risk of revealing our own TOX location to the enemy and make ourselves vulnerable. These trade-offs have to be considered up front with our execution. Finally, we have to prepare for multinational partners and their integration. In the Western Hemisphere, effective operations rely on us operating with our regional allies. Our communications, architecture, our SOPs must allow us to share intelligence and coordinate our effects with our partners who may have different levels of technologies and capabilities that could assist us. This framework ensures that our division can employ JADO in a way that's synchronized, legally sound, resilient, while remaining fully connected to the broader joint multinational fight. Let's talk about operational application. So as we go to apply these concepts in the operational environment, the 2026 NDS makes it clear that defending the homeland and securing the U.S. interests in the Western Hemisphere is the highest strategic priority. Under line of effort number one, we're directed to secure key terrain and counter narco-terrorist organizations and adversary proxies that undermine regional stability. Now, in this campaign, we're facing a sophisticated regional adversary that's backed by peer competitors. They're not just relying on traditional infantry or light armor. They're fielding commercial off-the-shelf drones, employing advanced electronic jamming systems, and conducting cyber espionage against our tactical networks. They're leveraging disinformation campaigns and turning the local populace against us through social media and other means. And when we look at the terrain in the area of operation, it's more than just jungles and mountain passes and urban centers. It includes the digital networks, the local cellular infrastructures, the electromagnetic spectrum itself. Our JADO planning, it has to account for all of these complex battle spaces. We can't allow our adversaries to isolate our forces and dominate the local information narratives and turn everyone against us through their disinformation. Every tactical operation has to deny the enemy access to key terrain, both physical and digital, while strengthening, our capabilities with our regional partners. Now, let's discuss how we translate these concepts into concrete action. This slide is going to outline our division's training plans and SOP updates for the space and cyber domains. For the space domain, we have to assume that our space-enabled systems will be actively contested during a conflict. During the upcoming collective field training exercise, we're going to impose GPS and SATCOM blackout windows. Now, during these periods, battalions will not be able to rely on their digital Blue Force trackers, GPS-based systems, or any SATCOM systems. Instead, they're going to have to navigate old school with map and compass and communicate using line-of-sight analog system. Our division SOPs are being updated to enforce a robust paced communication plan. In addition, we're standardizing the integration of the Army space support teams directly into brigade planning cells to provide localized space situational awareness and threat mitigation. For the cyber domain, we must acknowledge that our tactical operations centers are high-value digital targets. We have to. During command post exercises, we're incorporating a live op for cyber red teams to probe, exploit, and disrupt our networks in real time. Our updated SOPs mandate immediate isolation of reporting procedures. If a workstation is compromised, operators must treat the incident with the same urgency as a physical breach of our perimeter. Moving on to the electromagnetic spectrum and the informational environment. In the modern conflict, signature management is survival. What I mean by that is, when our formations emit large electromagnetic footprints, we're effectively broadcasting our location to our enemy. To counter this, our training exercises are going to focus on emission control. We're going to train TOC staff to operate with minimal spectrum signatures, using directional antennas and utilizing terrain masking to reduce their exposure. We're going to update our SOPs to mandate strict survivability displacement criteria. If our electronic warfare sensors indicate that the enemy has located our footprint, that TOC is going to be displaced immediately within a standardized time window that we come up with. Additionally, we're refining our spectrum use through SOPs to ensure that our own tactical jamming systems don't inadvertently degrade our own communications or our friendlies. In the information environment, we've got to make sure and inoculate the force against adversary disinformation. They're constantly putting out disinformation. So in theater, if the enemy records our operations and push it out, manipulate it to the media to create bias against us, we have to train our soldiers to identify this and report it immediately so that we can counter it. So, sir, to close this out, joint all-domain operations represents the unavoidable reality of today's modern warfare. We can't afford to plan in isolated staff lanes, nor can we assume that we're going to operate within uncontested dominance in any domain. To ensure our division is fully prepared to support your JTF campaign, my final recommendation is that we establish a division-level JADO working group immediately. This group will be co-chaired by the G3, G2, with daily participation from our space, cyber, electronic warfare, and information operational specialists, along with senior NCOs from each subordinate brigade. This working group will oversee the complete modernization of our tactical SOPs and ensure that multi-domain integration is embedded into every training event, rehearsal, and exercise we conduct. By doing this, we ensure our division does not simply respond to enemy actions, but we're going to set the tempo and force the adversaries to react across every domain. Subject to your question, sir, this concludes my briefing.